Happy Friday the 13th. Chief Meteorologist Ross Whitley here, talking about our weekend weather and our weekend, or rather, weather wrap up here as we go forward for the weekend and into next week. We got some really nice weather on the way. If you're living across the southeast, you're going to enjoy it. We got some warm up happening after a big cool down over the last couple of days. The Carolinas are going to have to be dealing with a wedge, and then that wedges into the southeast. That will be what we see over the weekend, but overall, some really nice weather coming in and some moisture as well. For the panhandle of Florida here, we're probably going to stay relatively dry, but across the southeast, we will see some moisture. So I'm going to jump right into it. And once again, I'm going to be working on this side of the screen, or rather right there on that side of the screen. So if I'm not looking at the camera, of course, that's what I'm doing, is paying attention to that over there. But we're going to really break this down. I'm going to go into the surface analysis here and show you what's going on overall. Let's get to where we've got our enhance. I like to start off with water vapor. Water vapor shows you a lot. And things can be hiding outside of water vapor that you really can't see, but water vapor does show you a good bit of imagery here. So starting off, we've got our satellite imagery up, and this is from GO 16. So we do have the water vapor imagery up, and you can see a couple of short waves or low pressure systems, one working through the Rockies here, frontal boundary stretching across, and then we've got another boundary that's set like that, and we've got another little weak low pressure system right here, another weak boundary going like that. So overall, we've got our moisture going like this, going like that. You can see dry air kind of wedged in between here, as well as this mass of dry air down here. And that's important for the panhandle here, because basically what's going to happen as this moisture tries to work that way and pull out of the Gulf of Mexico, we're just going to keep spinning this dry air in with high pressure and controls basically across the Carolinas. So that'll grab the air mass that is up here across Canada and the Northeast and basically run it that way through the weekend, which means it moderates as it's moving south and west, but it will still be relatively dry and cool air wedging underneath our moisture. So it's going to steal our moisture content away from us and steal any kind of chances away from precip as we go all the way through next Wednesday. If you're waiting on the big cool down that's going to be coming at the end of next week, you got to come all the way out here, and you can actually see the winter storm warnings going on there. So we're actually going to see this low pressure system eject out that way, help to grab some of the colder air here, and then it'll wrap up like that. And as this is starting to do that, it should take the air mass that's up here and bring it down to about right there. And then our little storm system coming across the south here later on next week will help to grab this air mass and throw it further off to the south and east. We're also going to get a little bit of boost from the subtropics down here. So you can actually see a wave that's going to be working in that direction, and that's going to help to amplify the pattern. What that means is basically, if you want cold across the east, it's got to come from somewhere, right? So it's got to be stolen from Alaska or the Arctic. So what you want is a big ridge of air like that, and then you want basically warm air being pumped up across the west, and then you want a big trough across the east. And obviously, you can see that pattern in place right now because, well, we've got cold air right here, right? There's a high pressure system that's pumping in cold air this way, which is why we do have the colder air across the east. So you want this pattern to kind of repeat. If you want to keep pumping in colder air across the east and southeast, you want this big troughing pattern. And basically what's going to happen this winter is we're going to see the Pacific jet in control as it usually does. And occasionally we will get it to buckle north like this. And that typically with La Nina, usually allows for some Greenland blocking every now and then, and you want a low pressure system here. So when that happens, you can help to dive cold air further south. So the pattern usually breaks out like this in La Nina, which means the colder air stays up here and back through here. You get lots of snow right through there. You can, if you get these deeper tracks and storm tracks, you can get snow along the mountains, but typically the eastern seaboard stays relatively dry. This La Nina pattern, if you really want snow, the Great Lakes is where you want to be, or into the upper Midwest, or of course the northern portion of the intercontinental West, going back across the Rockies there. That's really where you're going to see the most snow this winter, is going to be up through there, and then along this storm path on the north side. So sorry south, looks more like storms. Occasionally we might get something to break off, get some colder air here And if we can get something like this to happen with the trough, then you can get low pressure systems to come like that, and we get our classic nor'easters. That's what brings snow to this area. When you want snow like that, that's the pattern you need. You need big time cold crashing like that, very sharp trough, and then you need this active jet to basically eject something out here and then work across the southern Gulf and run up the East Coast. That's what you want for snow lovers on the East Coast. But this winter, I think, for if you're in this area on the west northwest side of Appalachia, probably not going to have a bad winter as far as snowfall goes. It might actually end up above average if we do end up getting some colder air to work further off to the south. Because when the Pacific jet's in control, a lot of times what can happen is it just blows Pacific air through here. And even though you get a favorable storm pattern like this, you got Pacific air in place. It's too warm. We just get a lot of rain. That's basically been what our winters have looked like for quite a while. So what do we have coming up, and why is there at least some kind of interest going on? Well, it's because we do have some colder air coming in. It's also going to coincide with Christmas, or at least near Christmas. So going forward, we do have some really nice weather. I'm going to start off with the GFS here. We use two main models in weather forecasting. The GFS, which is the American model, that just means that it's run through American computers and controlled by the American government as far as its operation. So that just means it's housed and we pay for it, that kind of stuff. The European model, you can guess it. It is from a European company, and that's where it's housed. We refer to it as the Euro, even though it is the ECWMF. I think that is the actual name of it. As opposed to the American, we call the GFS oftentimes. Global forecasting system. But anyways, this is the GFS. You can see by Monday, we're starting to relent on the wedge on the east coast of the U.S. here that's pushing down that colder air. So we'll start to warm up really. As we go into Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll see a lot of warmth across the south. Can see moisture around, so across the peninsula, and occasionally we will get some showers. The best chance of rain really starts to arrive by Wednesday for the panhandle. Across the south, maybe a little unsettled with the warmer weather. And if you want the colder air, that looks likely to be coming back at least by Thursday and Friday. Now, the question mark is going to be, oh, do we eject a system up the East Coast? And can we really get that trough to buckle and amplify and dig in? The GFS the last couple of days is saying yes. And if that's the case, you can see that Arctic air really coming south. So by the time we get to next weekend, we could be talking about maybe even a hard freeze for portions across the deep south. But again, we're really far out from next weekend in the weather world. Anything beyond 7 days should be looked at with at least reasonable doubt, especially from the weather system type of outlook. So looking at moisture and storms, we really have no idea where those are going to be in a time frame outside of 7 days. So that is something you look at inside 7 days. Outside of 7 days, it's all pattern. It's what do we have? What are the players on the board? What do the pieces of energy look like? Where could they be? How could they line up? And what could we be seeing? That's what we look at beyond 7 days. There's really no forecasting going on beyond 7 days. It's just patterns and pattern recognition. You're really not giving any kind of predictions at that point in time because it's just too many errors. So from the GFS to the Euro here, you can see that wedge again relenting a little bit by the time we get to Monday. The Euro's got a little bit more moisture. I have to do the 6-hour layover on the precip here, so it's going to look more intense, but it's really not. Overall, same kind of thing. Cold front starts to crash in by the time we get to Wednesday. Colder air, while not super potent, will at least bring enough cold air that we will be at least talking close to freezing next Thursday night and Friday night. And then, yes, the Euro 2 agrees with the GFS with that Arctic air coming crashing down by next weekend. So it looks likely that we'll be talking about that Arctic air. How long it stays, does it last up until Christmas? Really don't know. Are we going to get any kind of reinforcements behind it? I don't know. It looks likely that the coldest of the year may come in the 22nd, 23rd, and start relenting on the 24th, and then warming by the time we get to the 25th. So if I had to guess, I would say some fairly nice weather for the Panhandle on Christmas Day. Temperatures may actually even be up into the 60s for daytime highs after a big Arctic air break the weekend before. So that's where we're at for now. That's really all we can see as far as that goes. And as far as the storm systems, are we going to get a big snowstorm to work up the spine of the mountains? We're going to get a Miller B system that's further inland, or are we going to get a Miller A system that's along the coast? All I can say is right now we got good troughing, so if we can get the cold air far enough south and we can move that storm pattern further off to the south, then I'd say, yeah, the mountains of North Carolina look like, or at least the mountains, I would say, higher elevations look like snow is on the way with colder air. Everywhere else, if you're not downwind of the Great Lakes, you're really going to have to be timing out these pieces of energy. And again, we really don't know what that looks like at this point in time. So still kind of guessing on that. But we'll get a better idea as we go through next week. So if a snowstorm up the East Coast looks a little more likely, or maybe we get some kind of miracle and we can dive that trough really far south and time that out with some moisture, maybe we can get some snow further south. We'll see. But at this point in time, no telling. And the models are all over the place from run to run. So there's really no certainty in that type of forecasting. But the colder air looks likely by next weekend. And that's really where we're at. So until next time, we'll probably do our next weather wrap up next Wednesday. I'm off at the end of next week. So we'll try to do, maybe I'll do a weather wrap up from home. I don't know. We'll see. If there's something specifically you want me to go over or anything like that, make sure to type it out in the comment section. Again, this is exclusively for YouTube, so I'm doing this for you guys. What you want to see, what you want me to cover, what you want me to talk about, throw it in those comment sections, and we'll discuss. Hopefully we can get this soon enough where we're doing some live versions of this, and we can kind of have an open forum. That'd be pretty cool. So yeah, if you haven't, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me and continue this forward so I can keep doing things like this and make this channel even better. That's the idea here, is I'm hoping to invest this channel in the channel, and hopefully we can get this into a more of a long format discussion, and I can do more for you guys outside of the scope of just what is going on here. So if that's the case, then yeah, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That'll help me a lot. Thanks.